In this video, you can see how to install a pre-cut piece of PPF or paint protection film from Rvinyl on the front bumper of this car. And the first step is to remove the main dirt, because a lot of it can build up on the front bumper. Here, a soapy solution is being wiped over the front bumper, then clear water is now rinsing off the soapy solution. This is a solid first step. Then come in and degrease the surface and make sure it's extra clean. Here, this cleaner that comes from Rvinyl is being sprayed on the surface, it's allowed to soak into the front bumper, then it's being wiped off with a microfiber towel. And because a microfiber towel was used, which can leave little specks of lint on the bumper, a good final step is then to spray it one more time and then squeegee off any specks or fibers in this case. Once the bumper is ready to go, now it's time to prep the panel that's going on it. Here, get a nice long table that fits the width of the piece. Make sure it's extra clean, and once the surface is clean, it's now time to roll out the pre-cut piece that comes from Rvinyl. Note that you can choose a wide variety of different manufacturers for pre-cut piece of PPF from Rvinyl. Then spray the table. This will help the panel stay in place while the PPF is removed from the liner. Once it's entirely rolled out, it's always a good idea to start with the main piece. And keep in mind that for most pre-cut kits on front bumpers, there'll be multiple pieces installed. Be sure to spray the adhesive immediately as soon as it's pulled off the liner. Dry adhesive, once it comes off the liner, can pick up specks of dirt, and if it folds on itself, it's very difficult to separate. So spray it immediately as it comes off. Then take it to the bumper and place it in position. Spray the top section so you can pick it up nice and clean, and very important to spray the underside one more time to make sure that there's enough wrap attack so the piece can slide and glide. Now, with pre-cut pieces, it's extremely important to start correctly. If you start with exact precision, then everything will fall into place. So here it's lined up at one edge, and it's always good to start at one side and work towards the other. Make sure the material is evenly spread out on the section, and compound curves can be tricky, so make sure you read the wrinkles. And because it's locked in that top section now, the material can be gently pulled and spread out, and then once all the wrinkles are looking good, then it's time to line up the inside section. Once this looks good, it's locked in place with a squeegee stroke, and then the upper sections can be lined up as well. It's all about shooting towards the corners, and once the corners are set, the flat sections in between them will be relatively easy. So once that top area is lined up and looking good, you see those wrinkles building up on the right. Those can be shifted down, and the wrinkles in the middle can be spread out as well. There's recessed areas, so the material will feed into those gaps because the pre-cut kit was made for this. So once that's set on the inside portion now, those wrinkles can then be pulled down to the corner and make sure that the edge lines up with the wheel well. Once it lines up perfectly now, and all the material is evenly spread out, it's locked on that bottom corner, and now that middle section can be focused on. Here the material is picked up. Again, the wrinkles are fed into those open recessed areas at the bottom. This little silver piece is then fed across, and it will naturally butt joint with the main piece. And during this entire process, the material should always be shifted quickly just to make sure it's sliding and gliding. If it tacks too soon, that means it's dry underneath it, then it should be picked up, more wrap attack should be sprayed under, and then it should be repositioned. Make sure that butt joint is lining up perfectly, no overlaps with pre-cut pieces because PPF film is so thick. And so now once everything's lining up perfectly, double check that edge to make sure it's aligned, then squeegee everything on. Make sure you squeegee towards the edges so the moisture can flow out and not build up underneath the PPF film, and be extra thorough during the squeegee process. Short, compact squeegee strokes are absolutely critical. Double check the alignment at the top, make sure everything is good, then squeegee towards the gap. So here, short bursts can control the moisture, and you can make sure that there's no air trapped underneath. Once toward the top edge, and if there's tiny little fingers of material building up, not a problem. Just push the moisture out, and this will dry over time, and you can come back and finish it later. The key is getting as much moisture out as possible, then finish at the end. Here, this piece now is picked back up because it dried prematurely, so wrap attack is sprayed, it's lined up one more time, and butt jointed. There you can see the little material building up right in that little recessed area there, so the material is picked back up and relaxed into place. Again, with the pre-cut piece, everything will fit perfectly if you set it up properly. Once it's set, the freehand holds it in place, it's squeegeed onto the surface, and the final step is forming the film into the recessed area at the base of the fog light. And the material slides and glides perfectly into place. Now once one side of the bumper is set, it's now time to focus on the other side. Because the other side took a few minutes, it's a good idea to pick the other piece up, spray more wrap attack so it's sliding and gliding, then line everything up in a very similar fashion. And because in this case you're starting from one side of the bumper and working towards the other, the key is making sure that as it's stretched, don't hit points on the inside and work towards the outside edge. You always want to make sure that the outside edge lines up perfectly, and then focus on the inside points. So here it lines up perfectly to the wheel well area and it's locked on. Then it's fed back towards the inside area, and because it's a pre-cut piece, everything should line up. So here it's set up on the bottom corner, the outside edge is locked. Now here, the open gap here is aligned perfectly to the edge. Once set, it's squeegeed in place with short strokes. Once that's lined up perfectly, here it tacked again prematurely, the piece is picked back up, more rapid tack is sprayed. Now everything is lined up, in this case, to the bottom of the fog light. Once everything is in position, the free hand holds it in place so it doesn't shift, and then it's squeegeed onto the surface. And note that in some large recessed areas, the slip solution may cause the PPF not to stick right away. If this is the case, now spray what is called a tack solution. This is 10% alcohol and 90% water. Spraying this on the adhesive side will flush out the slip solution, and now the adhesive of the PPF can stick properly into the recessed area. Only spray the tack solution when absolutely necessary on these areas. Spraying prematurely may cause the PPF to stick too soon, which can be a problem if it needs to be picked back up. Now once in place, squeegee everything down, and the recessed area is locked and loaded. And once the main piece is on, it's now time to fill in these smaller pieces. So simply remove it from the liner, line it up after spraying with the rapid tack, spray the surface with the rapid tack, and now squeegee it into place. The free hand is critical for making sure it doesn't slip during this process. Now here the piece is going on over the light, spray it with a rapid tack, line everything up, hold it on, then squeegee it in place. These pieces are very easy and straightforward. So once all the pieces are on, then everything's protected on the front bumper, very easy and straightforward. Always want to do the hardest part of the bumper first, which is the main piece, and then these smaller pieces. Always double check for alignment, squeegee carefully so it doesn't shift. Always make sure that these edges are dry so they hold for the long term. And here's a shot of the final result, and a good final tip is to let it sit inside at a good workspace temperature just to make sure all the edges are 100% dry, and then once set it can be taken on the road and is now fully protected against all sorts of damage that can happen on the road, like rock chips. And with that, now you know how to install a pre-cut piece of PPF film from Rvinyl.